this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and in this video I'm going to demonstrate the stitch pattern that's used in the Moroccan tile Afghan, which you will also find on mooglyblog.com. Here is the finished blanket. I can't get the whole thing on screen, but you can see a little bit of what the stitch pattern looks like. It's worked with 2 colors at a time, and you work in one direction with the color A, the same direction with color B, and then turn it. So let me go ahead and show you how it's done. Move this blanket out of the way here. Okay, so I give several sizes for this on the site. For this demonstration, I'm just going to make a small swatch. You start with a starting chain of 3 plus 2 plus 2 for the starting chain. So here I have a chain of 19. It's a multiple of 3 plus 2 plus 2. So a multiple of 3 plus 4. So for the first row, this is color A, I am going to double crochet in the 5th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I will chain 1 and work another double crochet in the same chain. A double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the same stitch is a V stitch. So to continue on down the row, I'm going to skip 2 stitches and then work another V stitch in the next stitch, or the next chain, as it would be in this case. So that's a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the same chain. Again, skip 2 chains, 1, 2, work another V-stitch in the next chain. And you're going to continue making V-stitches and skipping 2 chains all the way to the end until only 2 chains remain. So I'll meet you there in a moment. Okay, so here we are. We have 2 chains left at the end of that starting chain. So what we're going to do is skip 1 chain and work a double crochet in the very last chain. And that will finish off row 1. Now at the end of row 1, you're going to pull up the loop a little bit, remove the hook, and place a stitch marker in there. Normally for stitch markers, I would say a little loop of yarn would work, but the point of this stitch marker isn't so much to keep our place, but to keep this loop from pulling back out as we work the next row. So I do recommend a closed stitch marker of some kind for this. So now without turning our work, we're going to make row 2. This is going to go in the same direction. For this one, we're going to pick up color B and work a standing double crochet. So hold on to your hook, wrap twice, and begin. If you don't know how to make a standing double crochet, I have a separate video tutorial for that on the site and on my YouTube channel. So to start row 2 with color B, I'm going to work a standing double crochet right in the chain 1 space of that very first V-stitch we made. There's a standing double crochet, and basically I'm going to make another V-stitch. I'm going to chain 1 and work another double crochet right in the chain 1 space. So that's the first V-stitch of row 2. It's very simple. Make another V-stitch in the chain space of the next V-stitch from the previous row. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and you can see these are getting nested right on top of the V-stitches from the previous round. You can see there, they're sitting right on top. That initial double crochet hanging out there on the end, that's fine. That just sits out there. We won't worry about that for now. So I'll see you when I'm done with this row. Okay, so we've finished row 2 and we have a V-stitch in each V-stitch of row 1, and now we're finally ready to turn our work. So for row 3, we turn our work. We're going to go pick up the loop from row 1, which is color A, the red one in this case. Insert the hook back in the loop, cinch it down to normal tension, and then for the first stitch of row 3, you can work a chainless starting double crochet. There's a separate tutorial for those on my site. If you're not familiar with them or you don't like to use them, you can just chain 2 and work a regular double crochet here. So to begin this row then, I've got the first chainless standing double crochet or double crochet. I'm going to chain 1 and work a double crochet in between the single double crochet and the first V-stitch of row 1. Right into there's not a chain 1 space there, but you just go right on in between those posts. So now we're ready to start working across. I'm going to work the next V-stitch of this row between the first 2 V's right on in there, right in that space, and closing row 2. So it's trapped inside that first double crochet. A chain 1 and double crochet right in the same space there. There's not a chain 1 space, you're just going right in between the posts. You can see that row 2 is trapped completely within those stitches. So to work on across the row, I'm just going to make V stitches, which is a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, right in between the V's of row 1. You don't work a chain 1 in between the V's, you just work chain 1 within the V's. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Okay, so we're coming to the end here. I am working a V-stitch in between these last 2 V's of row 1. And at this point, just kind of make sure you move all of row 2 out of the way. I'm going to double crochet between the last V and that first double crochet, which is really just those 5 that we skipped at the very beginning. The 5 chains that we skipped, those count as our first double crochet. So I'm going to go ahead and work a double crochet in that space, chain 1, and then work a double crochet in the top of the chain 3. If you think of those 5 skipped ones as a skipped stitch, a double crochet, and a skipped stitch at the top, or a chain 1, I guess I should say, you'll want to double crochet in the top of the 3 chains that count as a double crochet stitch. So that's the end of row 3. I'm going to pull up a loop and put the marker back in to make sure we don't accidentally pull any stitches out. Learned that the hard way. And go back and work row 4 with color B. Now to start color B, I'm going to go ahead and take the marker out. But before I put the loop back on my hook, I'm going to stick my hook right into that first chain 1 space that we made in the previous row. Just right on in the space there. Then I'm going to reinsert it in the loop of color B, cinch it down nice and tight, and pull that loop to the front, right through the chain 1 space. So the working yarn's still held in back, and you've got your active loop in front. Then I'm going to work a chainless standing double crochet or chain 2 and double crochet right there in that chain 1 space. Then I'm going to make a chain 1 and a double crochet right back into that space. Now it's kind of messy right here. What you want to do is go in that chain 1 space, but make sure you're not trapping any of row 2 there. And work another double crochet. And that's our first V-stitch of row 4. So for what we're going to do for row 4 is the same thing we did basically in row 2. We're going to work a V-stitch in the chain 1 space of each V of the previous row. And you're not trapping any other rows in this other than the chain 1 space that you're working into. Remember last time we kind of squinched down row 2 when we were making row 3. Row 4 is made just working right into row 3. Oops, no chain 1 between the V's. Just double crochet, chain 1, double crochet right in the chain 1 space of each of those V's. Okay, chain 1, double crochet. As we come to the end here, we've got the double crochet, chain 1, and the double crochet in the top of that chain 3. We're going to treat it like the rest of them. Work a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And then we can pull up our loop a little bit, insert a stitch marker to make sure it doesn't close up on us. And there at the end of row 4, ready to turn our work and make row 5. Now, kind of move. What I'm going to do too, I think, is important when you weave in your ends. And I didn't talk about this too much in the pattern, but when you weave in this end, this can be flopping out here. One of the things you can do is kind of hide it in these stitches with a tapestry needle and weave it in up here so that you kind of anchor it down as you go. Otherwise, this one's kind of flapping in the wind a little bit. So for row 5 now, we're going to reinsert our hook in color A. Go ahead and put it right in there. There we go. Pull it down and work our chainless starting double crochet or chain 2 and double crochet if you're not familiar or comfortable with the chainless version. Then I'm going to leave this one by itself. This one's not going to become half of a V-stitch. I'm going to wait and I am going to work our first V-stitch I'm going to go under, remember how last time we kind of went between the V's and trapped? We're going to go between the V's of row 3 and trap row 4. Work a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. You can see it's squinching down row 4. So it's pretty much just the same. Work in between the V's, not in the chain 1 spaces, but between the actual V's of row 3 and row 4, for that matter. Work a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in each space there across. And you can see already that the color A, in this case red, is creating sort of the outside of the lines between the dots of color B. They're not perfect dots, they're not round or anything, but it's kind of how I think of them. Or the grout lines in the tile, I guess you could say. Okay, so here we are at the end. We've worked in between all those V stitches. We've got that last one there at the end. So what we're going to do there at the very end of row 5 is double crochet in that very last stitch, which was a chainless standing double crochet. And you treat those just like you would a double crochet stitch, double crochet right in the top. So you can see you go back and forth between just having V stitches all the way across versus having V stitches with single double crochets hanging out on the ends. And that's the end of row 5. Pull up a loop, place a marker. And now it's time to work row 6. So this time the V is not on the end. The first V is in a little bit, but we're going to work it the same way. Let me take that stitch marker out. There we go. Insert the hook in the chain 1 space of the V of the previous round. Grab the active loop there. Pull it down there and pull it to the front. You've got the working yarn in back again, the active loop in front. Work a chainless standing double crochet or a chain 2 and double crochet. Chain 1 and double crochet right in that chain space, making sure not to trap anything else in it. With color B, you're never going to trap anything. Another row, you're just going to work regular stitches around the chain 1 spaces. It's only with color A that you're going over 2 rows there. So, just like the rest of color B rows, you work V stitches into the top of each previous V stitch on across. We are almost done. I think you can see how the pattern is developing. And the only differences now are that you're working with continued yarns instead of starting new ones. Now we've come to our last V stitch, so that's the last V. We're going to work with color B. Pull up a loop, replace the marker, and that's the end of row 6. For row 7, just as before, make sure color B is out of the way there. Pull the stitch marker out, replace it on the loop on the hook. Okay, work a chainless starting double crochet, chain 1, and work that second double crochet right between that standalone double crochet and the first V stitch. And that's the first V stitch of row 7. Then, between the V's, trapping row B, or color B rather, chain 1, double crochet, and there you go. That's really all there is to it when you're making the Moroccan tile Afghan. If you want to, later on you can change colors. You can make the whole thing in just 2 colors. It's up to you. But I think you see now how the pattern comes together. It's one of those ones that's hard to describe in words, but hopefully between this and the photo tutorial, once you see it all together, it'll make a lot more sense. And that's all there is to the Moroccan tile Afghan. Thanks for watching.